Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, was established by the Residence Act of 1790. President George Washington selected the site, and it was designed by French engineer Pierre-Charles L'Enfant. The city was officially founded in 1791 and became the seat of the federal government in 1800. From its inception, Washington, D.C. was intended to be a symbol of democracy, yet it has long stood at the center of America's triumphs and struggles. One of the earliest tragedies to shape the city occurred during the War of 1812. In 1814, British forces invaded and set fire to many of the city's most important buildings, including the Capitol, the Treasury, and the White House. This devastating event exposed vulnerabilities in the young nation's capital and led to extensive rebuilding efforts. The destruction reinforced the importance of safeguarding the city, both symbolically and strategically. The assassination of President Abraham Lincoln in 1865 was another defining moment for Washington, D.C. Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater just blocks from the White House and died the following morning. The city plunged into mourning. His death deeply affected the course of Reconstruction and highlighted the fragility of the post-Civil War Union. It also made Washington the epicenter of national grief and reflection. In 1918, Washington faced the deadly Spanish flu pandemic, with a large population of government workers and soldiers stationed nearby. Due to World War I, the city became a hotspot for infections. Hospitals overflowed, public gatherings were canceled, and makeshift morgues were established to handle the overwhelming number of deaths. This tragic event exposed flaws in the public health infrastructure and forced changes that would later improve the city's preparedness for future health crises. In 1968, just days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Washington erupted in riots. Businesses were burned, looted, and destroyed, particularly along the U Street corridor and in Columbia Heights. Federal troops were deployed and the National Guard patrolled the streets. The aftermath of the riots left parts of the city economically devastated for decades. However, this tragedy also marked a pivotal point in the civil rights movement and pushed local leaders to confront long-standing racial and economic inequalities. The city was again shaken on September 11, 2001. Although the attacks in Washington weren't as physically destructive as those in New York, the Pentagon, located in Arlington, Virginia, just across the Potomac River, was hit by American Airlines Flight 77, killing 184 people. The psychological toll on the city was profound. As the capital of the nation, Washington became a symbol of vulnerability and resilience. Security across the city increased dramatically, permanently altering its landscape and daily life. Despite these dark chapters, Washington, D.C. has also been a beacon of hope and change. One of its most iconic moments occurred on August 28, 1963, during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Over 250,000 people gathered on the National Mall in a peaceful demonstration calling for civil and economic rights for African Americans. It was here that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his legendary "I Have a Dream" speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. The march played a crucial role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and remains one of the largest political rallies for human rights in United States history. The city's identity has been shaped not only by its triumphs but by its ability to persevere through adversity. From wars and assassinations to health crises and civil unrest, Washington, D.C. has weathered it all, emerging each time with a stronger resolve to live up to the ideals it represents. Washington, D.C. is home to over 700,000 residents and represents a blend of cultures, backgrounds, and histories. The people who live there range from longtime African-American families with deep roots in the city to immigrants from Central America, Ethiopia, Vietnam, and beyond. The city has one of the largest Ethiopian populations outside of Africa, and that influence is felt in its cuisine, music, and community life. The culture of Washington, D.C. is a reflection of its diversity, where activism, government, education, and art intersect. Many residents participate in civic life, whether through local neighborhood councils, protests, or political engagement. Customs in the capital are shaped by its transient nature. Many who live in D.C. are drawn by short-term opportunities such as government appointments, internships, or academic programs, while others have lived in the same neighborhoods for generations. Despite the city's political atmosphere, residents are known for their pride in local traditions like go-go music, historically black neighborhoods, and a strong commitment to public service. Festivals such as the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, the National Cherry Blossom Festival, and H Street Festival reflect the city's cultural mosaic. Washington's economy is driven by the federal government, but that's just the beginning. The presence of hundreds of embassies, lobbying firms, nonprofit organizations, universities, and tech startups makes it a powerhouse in diplomacy, education, and innovation. Major employers include the U.S. government, George Washington University, Georgetown University, MedStar Health, and various international institutions. In recent years, sectors such as cybersecurity, healthcare, and renewable energy have also seen growth. Getting around the city is relatively easy thanks to an expansive transportation network. The Washington Metro system, known as the Metro Rail, is one of the busiest in the country and serves as the primary method of commuting for many residents and visitors. In addition to the Metro, there's a comprehensive bus system, commuter rail lines connecting nearby suburbs, bike-sharing programs like Capital Bike Share, and electric scooters available throughout the city. Walking is also common, especially in the historic and government districts. The food scene in Washington, D.C. reflects its global population. A must-try dish is the city's famous half-smoke, typically a spicy sausage served on a bun and topped with chili, onions, and mustard, made famous by Ben's Chili Bowl. Another iconic offering is mumbo sauce, a tangy sweet condiment found in local carryouts and poured over fried chicken wings and fries. For something more global, injera with Dora Wat from Ethiopian restaurants across the city offers a flavorful experience deeply connected to the local community. English is the dominant language spoken in D.C., but Spanish is widely spoken due to the city's large Latin American population. Amharic, Vietnamese, French, and Mandarin are also common in certain neighborhoods. The multicultural nature of the city contributes to a rich linguistic environment where you'll often hear multiple languages in a single block. Washington, D.C. experiences 4 distinct seasons. Winters are cold and can bring snow, particularly in January and February. Spring is one of the most beautiful times to visit, with the famed cherry blossoms in full bloom by March or April. Summers are hot and humid, often reaching temperatures in the upper 80s and 90s, Fahrenheit 30 Celsius, while fall brings cooler temperatures and colorful foliage. The changing seasons are a central part of life in the capital and influence everything from outdoor festivals to the flow of tourism. Washington, D.C. is full of fascinating details that surprise even longtime visitors. One fun fact is that the city's Capitol building has its own crypt beneath the rotunda, originally intended as George Washington's burial site, though he was ultimately laid to rest at Mount Vernon. Another interesting detail is that the streets around the Capitol form a grid with state-named avenues cutting diagonally through it, designed to represent unity among the states. The city also has no skyscrapers taller than the Washington Monument, due to the Height of Buildings Act of 1910, preserving the skyline's historic character. Additionally, the District of Columbia has no voting representation in Congress, a unique status that continues to fuel political debates. And despite being a city, D.C. has more green space per person than almost any other U.S. city, with parks covering nearly 20% of its land. When it comes to attractions, Washington offers an unmatched range of sites to explore. Visitors flock to the National Mall, home to landmarks such as the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. The U.S. Capitol and the White House are must-see institutions for anyone interested in American history and politics. The Smithsonian museums, like the National Air and Space Museum, the National Museum of American History, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture, are among the best in the world and free to the public. Arlington National Cemetery, just across the river, holds the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the Eternal Flame at John F. Kennedy's gravesite. The Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial each offer powerful moments of reflection. Georgetown, with its cobblestone streets and historic university, is another highlight, along with Union Station and the bustling Eastern Market. The Library of Congress is a national treasure and a bonus stop for anyone visiting. It is the largest library in the world, holding more than 170 million items, including rare manuscripts, maps, recordings, and photographs. It also houses Thomas Jefferson's original collection that helped rebuild the library after the British burned it during the War of 1812. Local stories add another layer of depth to DC's history. Many long-term residents share memories of the city's famous go-go music scene, which originated in the 1970s with Chuck Brown, known as the Godfather of Go-Go, His legacy still lives on in the city's culture and music festivals. Another popular tale revolves around Ben's Chili Bowl on U Street, a restaurant that remained open during the 1968 riots and became a community hub where locals gathered to find comfort and solidarity. The city has also produced or been home to several famous singers and artists, such as Marvin Gaye, Duke Ellington, and Whale. In the film world, Washington, D.C. has served as the backdrop for iconic movies like All the President's Men, Forrest Gump, with its famous scene on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and National Treasure. The city's monuments and streets are often featured in political thrillers and historical dramas due to its symbolic importance. Washington, D.C. is more than a political capital. It's a living museum of history, culture, and resilience. Its stories are told through its monuments, its neighborhoods, and the people who call it home. For those who visit, it's not just about seeing the landmarks, but understanding the struggles and triumphs that have shaped the city's soul. If you enjoyed this journey through Washington, D.C., make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video for more amazing travel stories that bring history and culture to life.